good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Angels in Politics broadcast, and I am your host, the White Collar Goon. I am your intermediary. I am your connecting piece to your higher self. The White Collar Goon, the creative and artistic manifestation of Angels in Politics. And there is a topic at hand that I would like to speak with you about. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for being here. Like, I know I throw a lot at it. I throw a lot out at you. Um, you're making me nervous right now. But that's intentional. That's because this is just who I am, and I only know how to be one way. That is just radically transparent, unapologetic, very open-minded, open in more ways than one. Yeah, some people will say like, Gabe, don't give them too much. Like, like hold some back. And I realize like I could talk to you for hours and you still wouldn't be scratching the surface of what really has been going down. But I guess that's where I will start right now. The gift. I believe that each and every one of you, particularly you, listener, you have a unique set of traits, a unique set of characteristics. We will call them idiosyncrasies, or you have an idiosyncratic way that you do things. Some may call them quirks, some may call them nuances, some may even go as far as to say subtleties. All right, and these are just the small things, the minute details that are that make up who you are. And I know that on a spectrum, listening is my currency. I do have that alert that comes to my phone. Yes, I did that. Yes, I have alerts that come to my phone. I also write down these affirmations. I also speak things into existence every day. And that helps me. But it helps me. So like this, yeah, this just popped up on my phone whilst I'm talking to you. But this is one of those things that are, that's my quirk, or not just one of them, but like, these are little things that I do because it's just me, and I remember having a friend of mine, shout out to my homeboy, the big homie, man, Devin from middle school, and I knew him in sixth grade, and really sharp brother, like ended up graduating from UVA with an engineering degree, and he's out there in Seattle. He used to be in Austin, Texas, making that bread and making moves. Now he's out there in Seattle. He's doing his thing. But I remember we got on quite well in middle school, just because we were both, I guess, the few black guys in honors classes. But two, because he was talkative, man. He talked fast. He had a lot to say. I've always had a lot to say. Always been opinionated, strong personalities, so to speak. And I remember back whenever he was the first person to put me on to 50 Cent. 50 Cent came out in the sixth grade, but he came out to Virginia, like by that Get Rich or Die Trying album. When that was like popping, like I think my boy Devin was already listening to some of his earlier mixtapes, so he had like whatever it was called, like whatever the earlier 50 Cent albums were. He was already putting me on to that. But I remember when when Wankster came out, like when Wankster was on the radio, so that had to be 2000 and fucking hell, like 2003 or something like that, maybe even before that, maybe 2002. But I remember when that was out on the radio, he would do this, like he called it the Wankster dance, but it was just his own shit, man. It was his own thing. And I remember like he had me doing it and our boy Ryan doing it, like we were just like fucking with it. But it's like that was his way of being him, and it's cool because like when you're confident in yourself and you have like your own, I don't know, when you're aware that your uniqueness makes you cool. I mean, that's the coolness. I mean, your uniqueness is that you have embraced those quirks and those idiosyncratic ways about yourself that other people might look and be like, yo, what is he on about? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, I mean, all those types of things. I mean, I had a group of friends from church. It was a family, the Olds family, and I'm still close friends with these guys today. One of the brothers, and more so than others, the one who's closer to my age. But they always had a way they always had a way of speaking. It was like they had their own language. It was like their own slang, their own ways of speaking that was cool to me, and I remember growing up in church and just hearing them talk, and it was just like a foreign language, dude. It was just like they were speaking English, but they had their own words and they got it. Like they had their own inside, jokes, and because they were confident in themselves, because they were like, charismatic and just like embracing who they were, like other people like spoke like them, other people like said some of those things, and even to this day I remember certain words that they use, and it's like it's dope. That to me is what makes you cool. That is the coolness. The coolness is like, I'm not doing these things because Michael Jordan did them. I'm not doing these things because Jay-Z did them, or Oprah, or some, this is the days before Beyonce, but like, yeah, maybe like Destiny Child, like, we're not doing those things because of them. Like, this is your own thing. So guys, and girls, I really want to stress that to you all, that like it's hard to stick your neck out, and I mentioned that before. Like it's difficult for certain people to stick your neck out as an adult, because like all of this, what I'm mentioning, whether it's my homies from church or whether it's my boy Devin, like people were like this in, middle school or junior high or, elementary school. But as we get older into high school, and some people, either go off into the workforce, or go off and start families, or go off to university, or, and go their separate ways, you find that kind of people that I've seen, that people, shield or lower or become defensive as it pertains to their individuality. You find that more and more people tend to assimilate, and assimilation is not the bad thing, but more so you're assimilating, but you're kind of doing away with your quirks and your idiosyncrasies and your nuances, and those defining details that make you you. So I feel like you kind of lose who you are. Not lose who you are as a person, not to say that you need to walk around as a 40-year-old and still try to speak in your own slang. I mean, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm more so saying, like, if that is who you are, like E40 ends up becoming this legendary Bay rapper because he's developed his own slang, and it's like been used for over 20 plus years, and it's probably prominent and has been proliferated throughout the Bay because of the fact that he has stuck with who he is, being true to who he is. And that's just what it is, like I want you all to understand that, being cool isn't just like wearing some actually, like, that's the antithesis. That's the antithesis. That's the complete opposite of what cool is. Once you start doing things because other people are doing them, like once you start wearing clothes because this guy who you think is like quote unquote cool is wearing them, then it's like, no, like he's the cool guy evidently, because he's doing his own thing. But once you try to like emulate him, or once you try to mock him, and not mock him in a bad way, but once you try to like imitate, once you imitate this young woman's style, or this young woman's flair, without whether you give credit to her or not, it's like, it's cool and all, but like you're at this, like you're cool yourself. Like you have your own ways, like you have your own things. And I understand that everybody's not as expressive, everybody isn't as creative, and that goes into how we're wired. We all think differently. We all are wired differently. Some of us are more, we are all, I would presume, divergent thinkers, but some of us tend to lean on one side more than the other, meaning some of us tend to be more left brain than right brain. If that was the case, then that means we tend to be more into like following rules and logic and reason, and having structure, and not necessarily thinking about what is creative and what's different and what's expressive and what's emotional. Like the left brain thinkers are going to be more scientific based, more reason based, more data driven. Okay, so like maybe shout out to the data scientists, data programmers, big data people, into, qualitative data, quantitative data, statisticians, numerologists, mathematicians, physicians, people who are in physics, all these types of things, quantum mechanics, quantum computing. Oh my gosh! So this is the future. But there are some people who are more so leaning on the right side of their brain, and the right side or the right brain people are the more, maybe they're not always the more creative, but these are the more creative individuals because they lean on, or they lean to more of an emotional understanding, more of an expressive understanding. They're the ones that are more inclined to, music and the arts and graphics and illustrations and just having that intuitive inclination to learn more, to be more inquisitive, according to whatever medium that they fancy, whether it is film, video, graphics, illustrations, art, painting, sculpting. You're a songwriter. You play an instrument. Whatever the case may be. And maybe you don't do any of those things. Maybe you just like to listen to music. Maybe you just like to watch people play music. Maybe you just like to watch movies. Like maybe you don't have to be Stanley Kubrick or Steven Spielberg or Prince or Michael Jackson. Like maybe you're just interested more so because you meet people, or you can come across people who say, I'm not really that into music, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like how can you not be into music? But like there's people who like music doesn't trigger them. It's not a thing for them. There are some people who aren't really into studying like film, or like maybe they watch movies for the pure entertainment aspect, like surface level entertainment. Like these are the people who probably just go to the movies and they see shit like, they see the shit that I'm not interested in. Like they see the stuff like the Fast and the Furious movies, and they can see all 20,000 of them and they'll be thoroughly entertained, because it's not really about like a storyline. It's not really plot driven. It's not really intricate details that they're looking for. They're not paying attention to cinematography. They're not looking at the blending of the blending, or the commingling, or the culmination of a storyline and of thought-provoking, evoking, provocative details. Is like, no, like they're there simply to escape what the fuck they have to do in life, or what they do in the world. So it's like, these are the people who can watch any superhero movie and it's always going to be great to them. They can watch any Transformer movie and it's going to be great to them. They can watch any Die Hard or anything that involves like American, stereotypical American film: guns, explosions, handsome white man, handsome white woman, or handsome black man, handsome, black woman, or attractive black woman, and guns, explosions, somebody getting their head shot off or some shit like that, and we're rolling. Oh, fancy cars, fast cars, guns, explosions, same shit. Like, like this is the thing. So I get off on that tangent, but I want you all to embrace your individuality, right? I want you to embrace who you are, because only you can be you. You know what I'm saying? Only you can be yourself. Like there's only one of you. Trust me. There are people who have their personality is on a spectrum, and that personality can fluctuate. Meaning there's people who can be loud and extroverted and gregarious and in your face at one moment, then they can be more reserved, they can be quieter, they can be introverted. The next moment, there's people who can be neurotic and anxious and pulling their hair out and like this at one moment, then they can be calm and sedated and reclusive and relaxed and the next moment. So like the personality spectrum can go up and down, and it fluctuates, but for the most part, that can be any of us. That can be all of us. Some people tend to be more this way than others. Some people tend to be more this way than others. But we all have our ways about ourselves. And I will say the small details, the finite details, the nuances are what makes you you. So I remember I had a friend of mine, a fraternity brother of mine, who was getting it was before his wedding. It was a baby shower. And I was at his baby shower. A lot of us were, and it was a beautiful baby shower. And I saw one of our homegirls there, one of our homegirls from college, and her name was Jackie. And I remember Jackie from college. I remember Jackie from university because we were at some room, or we were at some house party, dorm party. It wasn't a house, and there were some people there. And I come in and I'm, doing my thing, just, politicking, politicking as they say, chatting my shit, talking my talk, and she introduces me, or like I introduce myself to somebody who I don't know, and they're like, and she's there, and she's like, "Oh, that's Gabe, and yeah, he has the gift of gab. He has the Gabe and gab are like, synonymous terms, but like, he has the gift of gab." And I don't think she was saying it in a good way, but she was, being facetious. But it is what it is. Like that is, there's a lot of truth told in jokes. Maybe she wasn't joking, but it's like, yeah, and I remember that, that was like over 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even longer. But I still remember that because this way about myself has been, a gift. Like I'm talking about, it's been a gift of mine, but it's also been a hindrance. I wouldn't call it a curse, but I've definitely 100%, and I can be honest and transparent about this, that I've talked myself in out of more situations, talk to myself out of more, intimate relations with women than I have talked myself into, and put it that way. I've talked myself, into problems that probably would have never been present or been evident if it wasn't for me being so this way. I've talked myself into punishments with, my parents whenever I was a kid growing up, because of my unrelenting, undeniable, almost fiery, like this uncontrollable fire within my body, within every fabric of my being, to say what I have to say. Like I mean, most people would just say, Gabe, why don't you just do right? Why don't you just listen to your parents? Why don't you just follow the rules? Why don't you just, hey Gabe, like, don't you know, like, you don't need to say that to girls. Just, you're handsome. Just keep quiet. Just ask her questions and keep quiet. Like, why don't you just follow the traditional route? Like, why don't you just follow the conventional route? Why don't you just do what is normal? And that has been like, I couldn't be that way if I tried, and I did try. Like I literally did try, and it didn't really come to surface until my mid-20s, until after university, until after I left New York City, and I'm 23, 24, and I'm in a foreign country, and I'm traveling, and I'm finding that what was seen as an asset, being extroverted, being confident, being assertive, maybe being a go-getter, maybe being this domineering or dominant type of personality, maybe that was good, or maybe that was seen as favorable within my community here in the DMV, or so to speak. But it wasn't until I left my home environment, or my native ecosystem, it wasn't until I left that I realized that me doing things that were native to me being the way that I feel like is normal for me being myself, I wasn't I was getting hit in the face with like rejection and dejection, and people were like, women were not having it. And I mean, and a lot of this, like 99% of this, was my own doing, was my own undoing, because it's like, I speak to the fact that there was occasions whereby we will go to the bar. When I say we, me and my roommates or something, we will go to a bar, and it's just me and it's just me and my roommate, and then there's just these two attractive young women there, by themselves. And it's like, what? This is like this is like our How I Met Your Mother type of bar, like the place whereby we always frequented after work. So like, they knew us by name, they knew our drinks, like that type of shit. So we will come in, and one day it was like, what? It's just me and you, and it's just two girls. It's like, I'm looking at my friend like, okay, so we're winning, right? Like, this is for us. This is like destiny, right? Like, and my homie isn't. He doesn't see it, and he sees it as like the bar is dead, and he actually says like, "Yo, let's get out of here. Let's go to somewhere else. Let's go to another bar." And I'm like, "Do you not do you not see the opportunity? Do you not see how this is the perfect setup for us? Like, this is our night, brother. Like, no, like walking into a bar full of people can be exciting and it is great, but the most ideal situation is for it to be like it is now. Us two, them two. So there's no other way that we can say, oh, let's just play it cool. Let's play coy. Let's pretend like we don't see these motherfuckers. Like, no, they have 100% seen us because we walked in. They're there. There's nobody else there. Like, it was like maybe a Sunday or something, and it was early, so people hadn't come yet. So I was like, bro, this is perfect. And this wasn't a rehearsed thing. I don't like whenever I speak to people, it's not like, Gabe, like what do you say? Like let's play it, but let's play it back in your head and then go and like say some shit. Like, no, I was just seeing these two ladies, young ladies, our age, for fuck's sake. Like, I'm like 24, 23, 24. These girls were in their mid 20s as well, and they're sitting there at the bar by themselves. So I come up to them and I'm being myself, saying whatever it is that I say, And I remember walking in when I saw those two girls. I remember just raising my eyebrows like that, like, yeah, I see you girls, and my friend is out there playing pool, like really wanting to leave, but he's playing pool. Long story short, like, I think he leaves to go to the restroom. By the time he comes back, I'm sitting at the couch with these two girls. I wave him over, like, come on, Chris, like, come meet our friends, come meet our new friends. And I can already, like, you can already know where this story is heading. We chat them up, and I'm the guy who started the conversation. I'm the guy who goes over there to initiate conversation. I'm the guy who says, like, hey, let's play pool together, and we're grabbing drinks, and my friend is just sitting down, and like, he's not like he's disinterested, because those girls are pretty. Those girls were hot. Those girls were like proper fit, right? And they're there, and out of nowhere, like, I'm not gonna say out of nowhere. I mean, you know how it goes. These two girls are are like more intrigued. They're not even more intrigued. They're like talking and giving my homeboy rhythm. Like, I mean, like giving him rhythm, and not necessarily like throwing me that respect. And I guess, I mean, it's because of the sexual polarity. It's because of the fact that I'm coming in hot. It's because of the fact that I'm, the aggressor in this situation, and he's just the guy who can play it cool. And those two girls were like into him. You know what I'm saying? Those two, I mean, I don't know what the fact was. Maybe the one girl was from Arizona. The other girl was from somewhere in England. And my roommate, like, for sure, like, handsome guy, chilling, quiet guy. Not quiet, like, he's just quiet in comparison to me, but he's not quiet. But, in comparison to how me and him were, he was the quiet guy, to himself, and these girls were into him. By the end of the night, we go to a club together. We leave out the bar. We meet some of their friends. Their friends come. We all go to a bar. Then we go to a nightclub. We're all taking a taxi together. All this shit. We get to the nightclub, and he literally has both of these girls damn near fighting over him. Like, these girls are like, you see those girls pulling each other, and they're talking to each other in the club, and they walk to the bathroom, and they come back, and next there's like a switcheroo, and these girls are all on them, and I'm sitting there like, what's going down? What's going down? So yeah, man, I took the L. I took a major L in that regard, and that's just like one story out of like 100. But like, I took the L, coming home, and the next day, like, he comes through like the apartment the next day in the afternoon, and he's like, I'm like, so you had a good night? And he's like, yo, so homegirl from Arizona, like, was about a life. You know what I'm saying? He has stories for me, and I'm like, yo, Chris, like, do you understand like how crazy that is? Do you understand how wild that is? Like, you had nothing to do with those girls. You wanted nothing to do with those girls. You wanted to leave the bar, and I'm the one who's like, who does the legwork, does the setup, does the whatever, and you're like reaping the spoils like just hand over fucking fist, just like, bro, it just falls for you. And you know, some people might say, Gabe, it's because of the gift that you have. Because it's not like I planned this. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to these girls so my roommate can get all of the sex. It's like, no, man. Like, to me, it made no perfect sense to not talk to these girls. But because of his disposition, because of his calming, you know, settling and just mild mannered disposition as it pertained to women, like, he won. Like, and that wasn't just that night. I mean, he was winning. He was winning. Like, he was winning all throughout, you know, my tenure there, my year there. And I found this to be a reoccurring thing with me. And it's been one of those things whereby, like, I had to, like, deconstruct, like, yo, Gabe, like, is this just you? Is this something that you can't control? Like, what is it? So, you know, I had to find what was my idiosyncrasy, find what my nuances, and find the reason why I am this way. And it's working out now, because now I'm not at bars. Now I don't go to the clubs. Now I'm not chasing women. So, you know, now I'm using this platform to speak with you all. And I just wanted you to say, I mean, I just want to say to you, be who you are. Be who you are. Like, I mean, figure out what your weaknesses are. Figure out what your weaknesses are. I don't know why I'm fucking up right now, but just be true to who you are. Just be true and stay true, and things will work out in the end. Trust me on that. Matter of fact, don't trust me, but just believe me.